UFC 274 Oliveira versus Gaethje is only hours away, and I'm going to go through my last-minute detailed prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. I'm not just saying who I believe is going to win and why. I did that earlier this week. I'm trying to call how every single fight on the card is going to go, start to finish, what limb will be used for a KO blow, what submission will be achieved if there is going to be a submission win, what the scorecards are going to read if we make it towards the judge's decision, and also how every single round is going to go, every single minute. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Newson versus Fernie Garcia. I see a first round finish for Fernie Garcia here. I think it's going to be a fun scrap while it lasts. Both guys landing some really big shots. I think Fernie Garcia is going to be walking down Newson, landing a couple of shots here and there. A couple of leg kicks are traded back and forth. I think Newson's going to start landing some really big blows on Fernie Garcia. I think Fernie Garcia is going to take those big shots. I think there's going to be a scramble. Newson might shoot for a takedown. Fernie Garcia gets back up, lands a knee to the body, pushes him away. I think Fernie Garcia is going to be the one pressuring forward here. Newson circling around the edge of the cage, trying to stay away, still landing some big shots until eventually they both throw at the same time. Fernie Garcia's chin's going to be better, and he's going to beat Newson to the punch, put him down badly against the cage in the middle of the first round, and just pour on a massive amount of ground and pound to get a first round TKO win. Fernie Garcia gets this one done. Moving on up the card, Ariane Carnelossi versus Lupita Godinez. I'm going to be going with Lupita Godinez here by decision. I think she wins the first two rounds of this fight. I could see Ariane Carnelossi coming back in the third maybe, but I think in the first two rounds, the technical advantage for Lupita Godinez is going to be a little bit too much. I don't see her getting a finish here, but I do see her outstriking Ariane Carnelossi on the feet. And also, maybe Ariane Carnelossi shoots some bad takedowns. Lupita Godinez scrambles, goes for a submission, uses it to end up on top, goes for other submissions on top that Ariane Carnelossi escapes with her arms of a man. And I think Lupita Godinez is going to get top control from those positions, like going for a leg lock after a scramble and using it to end up on top. And I think she's going to end up on top, land some total strikes, have some close submission attempts, win the first round. Second round, similar situation, winning the fight on the feet. Ariane Carnelossi starting to bring it back a little bit, making it a little bit more competitive, but same situation again. Maybe this time Lupita Godinez shoots in for a takedown. They scramble around a little bit. Lupita Godinez goes for an armbar, a Kimura, something along those lines, ends up on top, landing elbows inside control, landing some good ground and pound towards the end of the second round. And in the third round, I think eventually Ariane Carnelossi is going to start to outmuscle Lupita Godinez, end up on top a little bit more in the scrambles. It's going to be a pretty even round that I guess you can give to Ariane Carnelossi because she's ending up on top more often than Lupita Godinez is, and they're both doing a similar amount of work on the feet and on the ground. I'm going to go with Ariane Carnelossi in the third round. First two rounds, Lupita Godinez, 29-28 to Lupita by unanimous decision. Moving on up the card, Kleydson Rodrigues versus CJ Vergara. I'm going to go over 30-27 for Kleydson Rodrigues here. I think he's going to win this fight by decision. I think he's going to go out there, and I think he's going to win this one by just being too physical for CJ Vergara. I think Vergara might have some success in the third round, more than he did in the second and first, but I think this success is going to lead to him running into some big shots from Kleydson Rodrigues that are going to drop him in some of these rounds. So I think the first round is going to be a very hesitant CJ Vergara. He had a bad weight cut. I can see Kleydson Rodrigues chopping apart his calves early on, chopping up his legs, and eventually starting to go for some spinning back kicks to the body, some front kicks to the body, some jump knees that are somewhat smothered against a cage, and we end up against a cage with CJ Vergara trying to knee the thigh and go for some takedowns that aren't quite working, and then Kleydson Rodrigues separates himself from the clinch, lands a couple of shots and gets distance again. That's how the first round's going to play out. The second round, I think, is going to be a little bit more competitive. I think Kleydson Rodrigues is going to have a moment where he drops CJ Vergara with something crazy like a wheel kick, ends up on top, lands some shots, Vergara recovers, pushes him against a cage, tries his own takedown, maybe gets it, but Kleydson Rodrigues is going to work his way back up against the cage, land some knees to the body, separate himself, go back to the leg kicks, go back to the front kicks to the body, and land some decent hands as well. CJ Vergara still having some success on the feet in the second round. The third round, I think the same situation, however, a little bit opposite on what happens in between. CJ Vergara is starting to get the better of some exchanges. Kleydson Rodrigues' big, powerful movements. Maybe he's missed a couple of wheel kicks, a couple of spinning back kicks, a couple of flying knees aren't quite landing the way he wants them to. Vergara gets a takedown off a stuffed flying knee, ends up on top, landing some shots. Rodrigues works his way back up to his feet. They're both on the feet. Now Vergara's landing some knees to the body against a cage. Rodrigues separates, still landing his good kicks at range, but now he's the one backing up against CJ Vergara. Vergara is starting to get a little bit confident, goes in for a big exchange, ends up getting dropped. 30-27, Kleydson Rodrigues. Big moments in every round, but they're competitive enough to not be 10-8s. 30-27, Kleydson Rodrigues. Moving on up the card, Tracy Cortez versus Melissa Gatto. I'm going to go with Melissa Gatto here. I'm going to pick her by armbar from on bottom in the second round, I believe. I think Tracy Cortez and her are going to have a decent stand-up match. Gatto landing the more powerful shots. You're seeing the reaction on Tracy Cortez. Cortez having a couple of moments here and there with the hands, landing some combinations that make the crowd go a little bit wild because of the way she looks. And I think eventually she'll get a takedown towards the end of the first round, end up on top, landing some total strikes. Gatto might go for a Kimura off of the takedown that doesn't really work her way back up against a cage. And the first round's going to be pretty even. Power to Melissa Gatto, damage to Melissa Gatto, but Cortez ended with a takedown, so I think the judges might go her way. One judge might give it to Melissa Gatto, two might give it to Tracy Cortez. Then in the second round, I think it's going to be a similar situation. Gatto hurting her to the body, big shots from Gatto on the feet. Cortez mixing in some combinations, some volume, failing a couple of takedowns here and there, ending up against a cage, kneeing the thigh, punching the body. Gatto doing the same thing back with some big knees to the body. She's starting to bust up the eye of Tracy Cortez with some straight shots, hurt the body maybe a couple of times against Cortez. Cortez starts sort of like moving backwards a bit, circling out, trying to shake off the body shot. Then Cortez is going to shoot a well-timed takedown, end up on top, but she's beaten up, she's a little bit debilitated, and I think Melissa Gatto's going to latch up an armbar on a lazy Tracy Cortez in full guard on top, and Melissa Gatto gets this one done by second round submission as the underdog. Moving on up the card, Andre Fialho versus Cameron VanCamp. I think Cameron VanCamp's going to be shooting for his life early on. Both guys are going to have some decent moments on the feet. VanCamp might land a couple of big shots early. Fialho starts to get the better of it, lands some really good jabs on VanCamp, bust up his face a little bit. Then eventually VanCamp's going to start shooting for his life over and over again, looking for submissions. Fialho rolls out of them, escapes them. Maybe he goes for a guillotine as VanCamp shoots a takedown, and VanCamp gets over, goes for an arm triangle. Fialho escapes, ends up on top, pushes him against a cage. VanCamp shoots again, gets down Andre Fialho with a size advantage. Fialho works his way back up again. Now we've just got Cameron VanCamp against a cage, shooting on a takedown, getting elbowed in the face, getting punched to the body a couple of times as well. Fialho gets him back up square against a cage, lands some big knees to the body, big punches to the body as well, and finishes Cameron VanCamp against the cage with body shots and head shots combined for a first round finish for Andre Fialho. Moving on up the card, Blagoi Ivanov versus Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. I reckon we're going to see a Marcos Rodrigo de Lima first round. He's getting the better of the exchanges. In fact, he's having so much fun landing big shots on Blagoi Ivanov that he's starting to fall in love with it a little bit, but he's not getting the KO that he wants, which means he's going to slow down as the fight goes on. Blagoi's jabbing at the body at range. He's landing some inside leg kicks. Nothing too damaging, but investment shots nevertheless. Some good knees to the body against the cage. Maybe he gets a takedown at one point with a body lock throw. They both end up back on their feet. They separate. Rodrigo de Lima rocks him at one point. Blagoi backs up. Rodrigo swinging crazy, but missing a lot of shots. Blagoi's moving away. Rodrigo still landing big shots. I think he's going to land a lot of big shots in the first round. He'll fall in love with it, start to gas out as the fight goes on, and it'll be like a slow, wet blanket type performance in the second and third round from Blagoi Ivanov. He's starting to pressure Marcos backwards. Marcos is taking deep breaths, getting his inside leg kicked out in front of him. Jabs to the body, right hands, pushing him up against a cage. Blagoi Ivanov, knees to the body, knees to the thigh, punches to the body as well. Gets a body lock takedown, lays inside control, little arm punches in the second round. Same situation in the third as well. Big shots here and there. Lima might have a big burst early on in the third to try and make a difference. Blagoi eventually gets the body lock, pushes him up against a cage. Body shots, knees to the thigh, little outside trip, gets down Marcos, tries to work his way back up, but Blagoi's just a little bit too much of a wet blanket, ends up on top again, side control, arm punches. Decision win for Blagoi Ivanov, 29-28. Moving on up the card to the prelims, Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. I'm going to go with Matt Schnell. winning the majority of the first round. I think he's going to be landing good combinations on Brandon Royval. Royval's going to be a little bit upset with himself, getting hit with certain shots. Then Royval's going to try a jump knee. It might land. Matt Schnell's starting to get a little bit more cautious now. He doesn't really want to commit to too many punches. Royval's landing some kicks at range, some punches at range as well, mixing up his shots against the cage. Schnell lands some big shots. They have some scrambles back and forth in the first round. First round over. Schnell's landed more. Royval's landed the better shots. They'll give it to Matt Schnell. He might end up on top in some of the exchanges while like escaping an armbar or something like that. Second round happens. Both guys landing big shots again. Eventually, Brandon Royval lands a big step-in knee on Matt Schnell, who somewhat hunches over sometimes when he's throwing his shots, and I think it's going to rock him badly. Brandon Royval goes for a finish. Big shots against the cage. Big knee to the body again. Down goes Matt Schnell. Follow-up shots from Brandon Royval against the cage. Second round TKO for Brandon Royval. Moving on up the card. Macy Chasson versus Norma Jamont. I'm going to go with Norma Jamont winning this one 30-27. I think she'll just jab 2 at range against Macy Chasson in this fight. There are going to be some moments where they're against the cage. Macy Chasson might win those moments for a bit, but then Norma Jamont's going to turn her around and have her own moments against the cage as well. I think this is going to be a very boring fight, but in the meantime, all of the clean shots that land are going to be straight 1-2s from Norma Jamont at range, on the feet. She's a very good fighter at boxing, especially for a female, so I'm going to go with Norma Jamont here, 30-27. Pretty boring, competitive-ish rounds, but the clean shots when they're at range are going to dictate who wins those rounds, and that's going to go to Norma Jamont, winning at 30-27, all 3 rounds across the board. Moving on, up the card, Francisco Trinaldo versus Danny Roberts. I think we're going to see a decision win for Danny Roberts, 29-28. He might get dropped in one of the rounds, but be okay. Maybe in round 2. I think the first round he's going to be piecing up Francisco Trinaldo. Straight 2s, front kicks to the body, leg kicks as well, some head kicks here and there. Trinaldo's going to crash forward with some big shots and maybe rock Danny Roberts at some points, but Danny Roberts will shoot in for the clinch, turn him around. They both have some moments against the cage. Roberts kneeing the thigh, punching the body, securing some points there. I think even though he gets rocked maybe once in the first round, Danny Roberts is going to secure that round on points. Round 2 occurs. Trinaldo gets a big knockdown. He starts raining down some shots. Roberts is surviving on the ground. Escapes, goes for an armbar. Trinaldo escapes it, ends up back on top. Now they're clinching up with each other against the cage, working back up to their feet. Landing some big shots is Danny Roberts to the body. Trinaldo throwing some big shots back. Trinaldo starts headhunting him on the feet in the second round, chasing him down. Roberts is sticking a jab and moving and teeping to the body and leg kicking and stuff like that. And I think eventually it'll be a 10-9 round in round 2 to Trinaldo. Not enough damage for a 10-8 round. He started to headhunt a little bit too much for a finish in the second round as well, so he's now slow in the third, and that's where Danny Roberts is going to pick up the cardio, pick up the pace, start landing some really good shots of his own. And you know what? I'll say Danny Roberts really picks up the pace in the third round, landing a lot of shots. Some people might argue 10-8 round, but I think it's going to be an extremely dominant third round for Danny Roberts. So I'll say 29-28, securing the first on volume, hurting the second, but does enough to keep it competitive enough for a 10-9 round. And round 3, I think he's going to school Trinaldo on the feet, who's used up all of his energy, headhunting in the second for a finish. Danny Roberts gets it done, I believe, as an underdog as well. Moving on to the headliner of the prelims. Randy Brown versus Chaos Williams. Great matchup to headline the prelims. I think Randy Brown's going to be doing very good. Chaos Williams is going to be chewing up his legs, though. I do know that. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Randy Brown is going to be jabbing, landing a good 2, starting to mock him a little bit, get all confident with himself because he's landing really good combination punches. Some elbows here and there as Chaos Williams crashes in. Chaos Williams is going to take those shots. One thing that Chaos Williams does so well is inside leg kicks, outside leg kicks. I think he's going to be chewing up the lead legs of Randy Brown. Randy Brown front kick into the body, front kick into the face. Chaos Williams is taking it though. One of his eyes is getting a little bit busted up from jabs of Randy Brown. He's getting outclassed in the first round. However, all of his shots are going to be like big shots to the legs. I think at the end of round 1, something that Chaos Williams does a lot in his regional fights is shoot a takedown with 30 seconds left. I think he will shoot a takedown at the end of this fight. At the end of the first round, get it. Randy Brown ends up back on his feet, knee in the body, shimmies him off, lands some good punches against the cage. First round, Randy Brown, a lot of head shots, a lot of body shots, but Chaos Williams is chewing up that lead leg in the first round, slowing down Randy Brown. Randy Brown's having more success in the second, doing good again, showboating to the crowd, doing this Billy Joe Saunders, David Lemieux stuff, where he sort of looks off into the crowd like, was that meant for me type of stuff, and lands some good shots again. Body shots against the cage. Chaos Williams lands back with some big shots. Gets the respect of Randy Brown. They go back to striking. Randy Brown outclassing him again. Good leg kicks from Chaos Williams the entire time in the second round. Really starting to take a toll on Randy Brown. He's switching stances a lot. Throwing a lot of kicks. Really showing a little bit of a sign of a limp as he moves forward against Chaos Williams. I think he's going to get overconfident against the cage. Start landing some good shots. Look to put away Chaos Williams with some body shots against the cage. And I think he's going to dip down for a body shot and get clipped by Chaos Williams and put out cold at the end of round 2. Randy Brown doing good, feeling himself, having some good moments. Maybe the momentum's turning in his favour massively towards the end. That's when he gets clipped by Chaos Williams and put away by that absolute ungodly power in Chaos Williams' hands. Big shot from him at the end of the second round. Randy Brown goes down. Moving on. Up the card to the main card. Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lauzon. I reckon little bit of a patient start. Cowboy landing some kicks, some teeps to the body, couple of head kicks that are blocked by Joe Lauzon. Joe Lauzon throws some big hooks, misses a couple of them, resets himself. Donald Cerrone again with the teeps, some switch kicks to the head that might land on the forearms, body kick, inside leg kick, he keeping himself at range with a jab, sort of rearing his head backwards. Joe Lauzon eventually reads that, dips in under the jab. Dan Hooker versus James Vick style, if you know, you know, if your memory's good enough. Lands a big shot on Donald Cerrone, stumbles him backwards a little bit, starts going for it against the cage, swinging big shots. Cerrone sort of reaching out, very James Vickish with his defense, reaching out for the head of Joe Lauzon, maybe lands a knee in all of the chaos to the body. Lauzon still swinging for the head as they're in sort of a clinch position. Cerrone lands another knee, they end up in the clinch, over-unders against the cage. Lauzon shoots for a takedown, maybe gets it. Tries to take the back, but Cerrone ends up back on his feet. They're both against the cage. Lauzon swung a lot of punches that haven't really landed too cleanly against the cage. Starting to breathe a little bit heavier. Cerrone keeping himself at range again. Teeps to the body, inside leg kicks. Now Lauzon swinging forward again. He might crack Cerrone again with another big shot. Cerrone stumbles backwards. Similar situation again. Landing some big shots over the top. Cerrone still recovering, getting the clinch, body lock. Maybe he gets a takedown on Lauzon towards the end of the first round. Lauzon has a close submission attempt. Cerrone escapes it. Ground and pounds him out at the end of the first. Hurts his face quite a bit. Lauzon's got a swollen eye coming into the second or something like that. Then I think in the second round, we're going to see Donald Cerrone, a lot more patient, a lot more composed. Lauzon's going to land a big shot, not stumble Cerrone as much as he did in the first. Go for a big unload of shots against Cerrone against the cage. Cerrone gets a body lock, sweeps Lauzon to the ground, starts beating him up on the ground a little bit, steps over into half guard, more elbows from Cerrone. Lauzon tries to get back up, he ends up back up. Eventually they're on the feet. Big shot to the body from Donald Cerrone. Kick to the head from Donald Cerrone lands as well. They end up in a scramble again. Lauzon shoots a bad takedown. Cerrone ends up on top and gets like an armbar from top against Joe Lauzon. Pulls the armbar, gets it. Second round submission to Donald Cerrone is what I'm going to call happening in a crazy fight as long as it lasts. Moving on, up the card, Shogun Rua versus OSP. I'm going to go with OSP, first round KO. I'm worried about it because it's OSP and he always lets me down in any way he possibly can because he's the biggest underperformer in the sport of mixed martial arts. But OSP should win this one. And I think he's going to win this one with like a body kick KO, dare I say. Shogun Rua is so soft to the body at the moment. I think we're going to see both guys at range. Shogun Rua looking to land kicks, but getting out leg kicked by OSP at range. OSP's chewing up the inside leg, the outside leg. Big shots upstairs. They're against the cage in a clinch. Shogun's throwing shots over the top, but OSP's got knees to the body with a tie clinch. Shoots a takedown, gets it. Shogun works his way back up, but OSP lands like a knee to the body as he gets back up. A big punch to the body as well. A couple of punches upstairs. Separates himself. More leg kicks at range between the pair of them. OSP dips out the way as Shogun comes in, lands a counter shot, sort of stumbles Shogun a little bit. Now he's a little bit more patient against the cage. OSP feints upstairs with her hands, throws a body kick against the cage, puts down Shogun Rua with a body kick against the cage. Round one, at the end of round one, TKO, body shot, OSP gets it done. Moving on to the feature fight, Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. My God, it took a long time to get to these ones. Michael Chandler first round KO is what I'm going to go with here. I think it's going to be a questionable stoppage, but Ferguson's going to have already been down before the referee steps in, so it's a more justified step in. Even though Ferguson might stumble all over the place and then get back up and protest, it's going to be understandable as to why they stopped the fight, because he's already been down a couple of times. I think at the start of this round, Ferguson's going to be moving around all unorthodox. Chandler's going to be chewing up his legs on the outside, calf kicks and stuff like that. Couple of jabs to the body, a couple of right hands to the body. He's moving around. Ferguson might shoot a takedown off of the leg kick from Chandler. Get the takedown for a moment. Chandler goes for a guillotine, uses it to sweep Ferguson, end up back on his feet, lands like a combo to the body as Ferguson gets back up. Ferguson still moving around, shimmying his shoulders all over the place, trying to feint, picking up sand, doing everything he can to get it done. All the unorthodox Ferguson stuff. Teeps to the body are going to be landing from Ferguson. Chandler starts chopping back at the legs. Jab to the body from Chandler. Right hand to the body from Chandler. Sort of gets in that pattern of a jab to the body, then a right hand to the body. And I think we're going to see Ferguson start to get his jab going, maybe land a couple of jabs on Chandler, and that's when it's going to happen. Chandler jabs to the body, steps out at range, Ferguson jabs with him, and this is when the right hand to the body doesn't happen, and he dips it over the top, ducking the jab on the inside against Tony Ferguson, blasting a right hand over the top, cracking Ferguson badly, who gets wobbled, jolty-legged, goes down a little bit. Chandler starts swarming him, big shots, body shots against the cage as Ferguson gets back up. He's stumbling, he's trying to grab a single collar. It hurts me to say this. It's hurting me to even imagine this in my head. Ferguson stumbling again, he shoots a takedown, goes for like a leg in a position. Chandler steps out of it, tells him to get back up, chews up his legs on the feet again. Similar situation, jab to the body, right hand over the top of Ferguson's jab where he leaves his chin way up in the air. Down goes Ferguson again, he's stumbling backwards. Chandler follows up against the cage. Ferguson stumbling again. The referee steps in. Ferguson stumbling all over the place. Eventually gets to himself afterwards once the referee's jumped in. Stands up and goes, what? While sort of wobbling. But it's going to be a justified stoppage because he's already been down so badly. You know what I'm saying? Round 1 TKO. Michael Chandler. Fuck, it hurts. I hope he wins. Moving on to the co-main event. Rose Namajunas. Carla Esparza. I reckon we're going to see Rose Namajunas destroying Carla Esparza on the feet early in this fight. Inside leg kicks, outside leg kicks, couple of kicks upstairs here and there, couple of knees to the body. They're in the clinch, over-unders here and there. Rose shimmies it off, lands some good jabs, some good combos to the face. Esparza throws back with some volume. Couple of them land, but there's not really any effect on Rose Namajunas. Namajunas still landing some good shots, some jabs and stuff. Esparza gets a takedown towards the end of the first round. Both girls landing shots. Esparza on top, Rose on bottom, but the work that Rose Namajunas has done on the feet early in round 1 is going to carry her that win in the first round, 10-9. Round 2, Esparza's corner is going to be saying, you've got to take her down. You did it at the end of the first, you can do it again. She'll get a takedown in round 2. Rose is elbowing off bottom. Esparza's landing some decent shots. Rose ended up back on her feet against a cage. Esparza's pushing at her against a cage. Rose is doing the little elbows and stuff like that. Couple of knees to the body. Separates herself. More leg kicks. More teeps to the body. Switch kicks to the head. Jab 2 down the pipe. Couple of big shots. She drops Esparza. Rushes in looking for a finish. Esparza times a double leg. Ends up on top in full guard. Landing total strikes for like the last 2 minutes of the second round. But because she's been dropped, another 10-9 round for Rose Namajunas. Third round, Rose still keeping it at range, jabbing Esparza. Esparza's face is pretty beaten up. Esparza's having some success on the feet now because Rose fears the takedown coming, so she's getting hit with a couple of shots herself. Face a little bit bloodied up. Esparza shoots a takedown towards the end of the third. Rose lands some elbows. You can see Esparza's starting to slow down. She's getting beaten up a little bit. Her face is starting to show a lot of damage. She's taking some heavy breaths. Rose gets back up against the cage. Esparza shoots again, gets her down. Rose gets back up against the cage, lands some knees to the body, some punches to the body, some punches to the head, some of those elbows again. Esparza takes her down again, ends up back up on her feet. Body lock, knees to the thigh on Rose Namajunas. She takes the backside, drags down Rose again. Rose scrambles, ends up on top, landing some total strikes. Fourth round, similar situation. Rose hurting, Esparza on the feet. Esparza shoots a takedown. Rose reverses, ends up on top, landing some good shots in full mount on Esparza, who's beaten up to the face. She's got a swollen eye, a busted nose, busted lip. She turns her back to try and get away from being full mounted and TKO'd. Gives up the back, gives up the neck. Rear naked choke for Rose Namajunas. Round 4. Moving on to the main event. Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. A lot of people bailed on my boy Olives after the weigh-in mishap because mentally he is going to be drained here. But I think Gaethje's going to underestimate him a lot here. And I think Oliveira is going to have more success on the feet because of it. Okay? I think it's going to be a good first round. I'm sticking with my boy Olives. I'm not one of these cowards that sees a weigh-in and then change the entire prediction. I think Oliveira is a better fighter than Gaethje. I think he mixes up way better than Gaethje. So I'm sticking with my boy Olives here. Round 1. Both guys at range. Oliveira is going to start this fight with a jumping front kick to the body. 1, 2, boom. Big front kick to the body against Gaethje. Finds his range a little bit, moving around. Gaethje's like, okay, that's how we're starting it. Okay, no glove touch, anything like that. Cool. Starts touching his gloves up. Boom. Spinning back kick to the body from Charles Oliveira. Pushes Gaethje back again. Okay. Gaethje starts landing some leg kicks. Oliveira's landing some decent shots at the same time. Oliveira's looking for shots. Gaethje lands a big shot. Oliveira comes in, gets hit by it, but takes it well. Single collar, knee to the body. Couple of leg kicks here and there as he escapes. Both guys very patient in the first round. Oliveira shoots. Gaethje stuffs it. Moves out of the way. And you can see Gaethje like, okay, I stuffed the first takedown. Oliveira, teep to the body. Jabbing with Gaethje back and forth. Gaethje's got the more powerful jab. Both guys jabbing with each other here and there. Spinning back kick to the body from Charles Oliveira again lands. Jumping front kick to the face kind of lands for Oliveira and stumbles Gaethje backwards a little bit. He shoots again. Gets the takedown. Gaethje gets back up against the cage. Olives tries to get his back but can't quite do it. Gaethje breaks the grip and separates. But Oliveira lands a good knee to the body with a single collar before he does. And you can see that Gaethje's body language kind of changes once that happens. Good front kick to the body from Charles Oliveira at range. He's backing up Justin Gaethje. Gaethje cracks him with a big shot that puts him down for a second off balance, but he gets right back up and wipes his mouth like, no, that ain't it. I was off balance. I was going for a front kick maybe. Gaethje catches him while he does it. He ends up down. He gets right back up though. Both guys end up back in the fight. Teep to the body from Oliveira. Spinning back kick misses. Gaethje goes to throw. They end up in a close quarters situation. Gaethje looking for uppercuts, but Olives lands a nice knee to the body again on Justin Gaethje. A good leg kick at range as well. A good jumping front kick to the body. Gaethje starts swinging back. Oliveira dips right under it when they start to scrap back and forth on the feet. Gets the double leg. Gaethje stuffs it, but Oliveira ends up on his back, close to the center of the cage. Gaethje's trying to scramble over to the edge of the cage to get his back towards the cage. Oliveira's already got hooks in. Climbs up the back of Justin Gaethje. Puts in the rear naked choke. They're fighting there for a little while. Gaethje's trying to fight the hands. He's got it on the chin. Oliveira, he's trying to get it through the chin. Justin Gaethje ends up sort of like front flipping forwards to try and get them both off of each other. Ends up with Oliveira on the ground. Body triangles it up. Fighting the hands again. Landing some big punches on the back. Gaethje gives up the neck. Right hand underneath. Left hand underneath. Right hand secures it. Charles Oliveira, rear naked choke in the center of the cage on the ground. I'm sticking with my boy Olives. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye. We'll see how I do on this one. Goodbye.